Factsverse presents Vet Sees Dog's Ultrasound and Freaks Out. Chris and Marissa wanted to get a dog. Well, rather than going to a breeder or a puppy mill, they chose to adopt a dog from the shelter. When they arrived there, Marissa wanted to take every single one of those dogs home. She was a real dog lover and wanted to help all the dogs at the shelter if she could. Well, as she walked through the shelter, Marissa says it was almost like the dogs were pleading to her with their eyes, "Please take me home." Well, finally, she and Chris made their choice. The dog that caught the couple's attention most approached them and licked their hands. They knew right then that was the dog for them, even though that dog was pregnant. Marissa says the dog had the sweetest eyes and was pleading for a warm home. She wanted to give the dog a warm and comfortable place to give birth. She was sure that this future mama would be the dog for them. The dog's name was Storie, and her story almost brought Chris and Marissa to tears. Storie once belonged to a backyard breeder. When her owner realized how expensive it would be to care for Storie and her puppies and how much work that would be, he just decided to ditch her. As soon as the couple heard what Storie's life was like just a short time earlier, it made them even more positive that choosing Storie was the right thing to do. Chris and Marissa love pit bulls. When they were ready to bring Storie home, she wasn't going to be alone. They were already the proud parents of 10 other dogs. Storie would be number 11, and the few puppies that they expected her to give birth to would bring their total to 14 or 15 pups, or so they thought. With many dogs, you'd think that they all sleep on the floor or that there are dog beds scattered all over the house. Chris and Marissa didn't want their beloved dogs on the floor, and they also didn't want dog beds scattered about their small home, so they created a mega bed. Mega bed's not just for the dogs, that's also where Chris and Marissa sleep as well. They knew how much dogs love to sleep with their owners, so the mega bed was born. The bed is 14 feet long, 7 feet wide, and there are a couple of beds under the mega bed as well, and a staircase for the dogs to get into the bed easily. There's more than enough room for the couples and their dogs to sleep, and they don't have to worry about being pushed off. Before the mega bed, the couple ended up on the floor or sleeping on the couch. Thanks to the mega bed, they had enough room for all the dogs, including Storie. Marissa says that she's had relationships in the past, but the men didn't understand and support her love of dogs. She says that that's what usually ended their relationships. Everything changed, though, when she met Chris. He was also a lover of dogs, and they shared the same passion for the four-legged animals. The couple's love of animals helped to strengthen their relationship. Pibbles and More Animal Rescue is like most animal shelters in that they deal with a lot of dogs with too little resources. Most shelters want to help every dog that walks through the door, but they don't have the resources necessary to help everyone. When Marissa and Chris walked into the shelter, they noticed that many of the dogs were the same. Most of the dogs in the shelter were pit bulls. They couldn't believe how many of these wonderful dogs were being left behind by their owners with no place to go. Pit bulls have earned a bad reputation, but it's actually just a misunderstanding. The breed is characterized for their large heads and muscular physiques, but these dogs aren't very threatening. The dogs who've attacked in the past, those were the ones that were beaten or raised to fight. People are so afraid of the dogs now that they're illegal to own in many states. Marissa and Chris love pit bulls, and they understand that if you give a pit bull a loving home and you nurture the dog, it can be just as sweet and loving as any other breed. Chris and Marissa have adopted many pit bulls because they love the breed, and they know that many of the dogs have been abandoned due to their violent reputation. The people at the shelter told Chris and Marissa that Storie should have already given birth. They didn't know why it hadn't happened yet. Her life would be more at risk every day that passed and she hadn't given birth. As soon as the couple heard that Storie's life was at risk, they knew they had to do something. They were sure that being in a stressful environment probably wasn't doing anything to help the mama give birth to her babies. As soon as Storie put her head in Marissa's lap and looked up at her, she knew helping Storie was the right thing to do. Marissa and Chris knew that taking in Storie would be a considerable responsibility. They had a sizable family already, and Storie and her puppies would add to the responsibility. Because Storie was desperate, the couple were torn. They discussed bringing Storie home, and they weighed all the pros and cons of helping her. Finally, Chris had an idea. He and Marissa could foster the pit bull and her puppies while the animal shelter tried to find them forever families. That way, everybody would win. Well, now that they had a solution to Storie's problem, Chris and Marissa wanted to know what was going on with her pregnancy. She wasn't giving birth. Why? The couple wanted to know if there was something wrong with Storie that made it difficult for her to deliver the puppies. They decided to go online and see if they could find answers that they needed. Shortly after the couple went online, they realized it was a mistake, and what they found was terrifying. They didn't find a solution to their problem, they just became more anxious, and their anxiety had worsened, but they were still no closer to finding out what was wrong with Storie. Finally, they came across an article that could have explained what was happening. Humans often underestimate how intelligent dogs are. The couple found an article that could explain what was happening to this precious dog. It was what the couple thought when they first went into the shelter and heard the chaos going on inside. Pregnant dogs are particularly vulnerable to stress and chaos, so she may not have wanted to give birth to her babies there. During the couple's research, they discovered that dogs who wait that long to have their babies are in great danger. Also, it's not just the mother who's at risk, the babies are as well. The couple knew it was time to take Storie to the vet. Something had to be done to help her deliver her puppies. When they arrived, the vet performed an ultrasound and was shocked when she looked at the screen. She couldn't believe what she was looking at. When she started the ultrasound, the vet expected to see 6 puppies on the screen. The vet counted the puppies twice, and both times she counted 12 puppies in all. Everyone in the room was in shock. They couldn't believe Storie was carrying so many puppies. After the vet checked the puppies on the ultrasound, they all appeared to be okay. She told Chris and Marissa to take Storie home and, if she didn't deliver in 2 days, bring her back for another checkup. Marissa was going to do everything she could to help Storie give birth safely. When they got home from the vet, she set up blankets and pillows in an empty room. She wanted to make things as peaceful and as comfortable for Storie as possible. When the couple had Storie set up for the night, they went to bed. Chris and Marissa hoped that when they got up in the morning, Storie would be more comfortable than she had been. When the couple woke up, they heard sounds coming from Storie's room, and when they opened the door, they saw her pups. Storie had given birth overnight, and they were all healthy. When the puppies were old enough, it was time for them to leave Storie. Fortunately, Storie's ordeal became local news, and requests for the pups were flooding into the shelter, and her puppies quickly found their forever homes. Storie's pups did find their forever homes, and Storie had her happily ever after as well. A local man heard about her and wanted to give her a home. He had her spayed to prevent another massive pregnancy, and she settled into her new home nicely. Caring for Storie and her pups is something that Chris and Marissa will never forget. Subscribe for more.